Kakadosh Boker or Masechet Batra Daf Yomi Daf Kuf Nun Tet Amud Aleph 159a1 says the Gemara Itmar, it was stated Ben Shemachar B'Nichse Aviv Bechaye Aviv Umet. So if you remember, we were speaking about a case where a son came and he sold in the properties of the father in the lifetime of the father, right? And he says, and then what happened was that the son died before the father. So remember, there was the grandfather, son, and grandson. The son sold during the lifetime of the grandfather the properties to lekuchot, and then he died before the grandfather, and then the grandfather died. Okay, so what happened? So it says the grandson, which is Beno, motzi miyad lekuchot. So he says the Gemara, it's very difficult this in Dinei Mamonot. You know why it's very difficult in Dinei Mamonot, such a thing? He says, because the Lekuchot could come and tell the grandson, Avuch mizaben ve'at mapek. He says what? He says, your father comes and your father sells and you're taking it out from us. What's going on here? Right? How could this be? So says the Gemara, Umay Kushia, what's the question? Dilma Matziamar, he could say, I'm not coming because of my father. I'm coming because of my grandfather. Yeah, why? Because the father already passed away. So since the father already passed away, and at the time he didn't have anything in his properties, so therefore he's not coming now mikoch the father. He's coming mikoch the grandfather. Tichtiv, tachat avotecha yubanecha teshitemu lesarim b'chol haaretz. What does that mean? It doesn't say tachtecha. It says tachat avotecha, which means that the children will come and they'll get from the makom of avi avihem, which is the grandfather, okay, the grandparents. So fine. So he says, right, ela barather ikashia hakashia. But he says, if there's a question, this is going to be the question, right? What's going to be the question? Yeah, the question is going to be as follows. But rather, the question is going to be as follows. Ben Bechor, we are on Kufnun Tet Amud Aleph on the top. Okay, it says over here like this. We said, what was the question? The question is going to be Ben Bechor, Shemachar Chelek Bechora Bechaye Aviv. We're talking about a Ben Bechor, that he sells a Chelek Bechora during the lifetime of the father, Umet Bechaye Aviv. And now what happens is he dies in the lifetime of the father. So Beno, meaning the son of the Bechor, is going to be Motzim Yad Lekuchot. Vezoi Shekashe B'Dinei Mamonot. Meaning like this. Beforehand, we thought that what was the question? The question we had was grandfather, son, and grandson. The son came and sold during the lifetime of the grandfather. And then he died first. And then the grandfather died. So therefore, the grandson could take away from the lekuchot, could take away from the people that purchased from the son, from his father. Because at the end of the day, when he actually sold it, it didn't belong to him. It belonged to the grandfather. So he said, if it was going to be a question, why is it a question? At the end of the day, he says, yeah, he's coming mikoch the grandfather. Fine. So the Gemara says, you're right, that's not the question. The question is really Bemet a Bechor. You have a Ben Bechor. He comes and he sold the Chelek of the Bechorah during the lifetime of the father. Then what happens? He dies during the lifetime of the father. So this Bechor that already sold this Chelek dies. So his son is the one that's going to take out of the Lekuchot. Says, well, your father's selling it and you're coming and you're taking it out of us. If you're going to tell me, also he's going to say, he could also say that I'm coming from the grandfather. There's no such thing as a Bechor in the Chelek of the grandfather. Because, exactly, so the Bechor has nothing to do with it. So obviously he's only coming mikoach the Abba. Meaning like this, it's only because his father was a Bechor that he could take a Chelek Bechorah. If his father was not a Bechor, right? Which means, if he's not coming from the father, he's going straight to the grandfather. There's no chelek bechora. So what does it mean that that he's taking he's taking out the chelek bechora? Why does he take out the chelek bechora? He doesn't have it. Obviously, he's coming from the father. So therefore, the Gemara is going to ask. That's very difficult in Dinei Mamonot. Why? Because your father sold it, and now the son is coming and taking it out. So he says, "Umay kushia." What's the question? Dilma matzi amar. Maybe he's coming to say, "Mikoach ava avu adaba katina." Uvimkom av kaina. Really, Be'emet, I am coming from my grandfather. But I'm coming from the power of my father. Right? Which means, Be'emet, I'm taking from my grandfather. And that's mikoach atzmi. Just like we said, tachat avotecha yubanecha. But I'm also taking the chelek bechorah, ki'ilu that I'm the bechor for my grandfather. right? Instead of his father, right? So he comes and he says, so maybe that's a pshat. Meaning it is coming straight, it's coming straight from the grandfather. So basically what we're going to actually realize is that there's going to be a whole chakira, right? Remember that many times in Gemara we learn chakirot. And the chakira is going to be that when a person comes and let's say they have, like what we said, grandfather, son, and grandson. The son already died. And now what happens is the grandfather dies. So when this grandson comes and he inherits, is it that he's going straight back up to the grandfather, or is it going back up like in a line? Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of nafkaminas, and that's exactly what we keep on asking and going back and forth here and there. So says the Gemara, so you're right. So you're right. What's going to be the question? Imagine right now a person knows about his friend that there's going to be an edut bishtar, right? Until he didn't become a gazlan. And then afterwards he became a gazlan, so he was pasul edut. Remember that a person that's a thief, he's not allowed to testify. So he's not going to come and testify. He's not going to be mekayem the chatimot and the shtar. But other people, they do testify. So hashta ihu lo me'emein. He comes, he says he's not going to be me'eman. He's not going to be believed. Acharim mehimne. So how could other people be believed? Which means even if other people are going to come and testify that it's his ktav yado, right? How do you collect it? At the end of the day, we're going to say that he sold it to a sheket because he became a gazlan. What do I care that I have other people coming and verifying this is his ktav yad? Even if it's his ktav yad, what do I care? If this guy's a gazlan, what do I care about the ktav yad that he wrote or he didn't write? You're right. I have two witnesses coming and saying, this is his ktav yad. What do I care? This is a gazlan. Meaning, if he's a shakran, if he's a guy that... So what do I care, right? What do I care about what he's doing? So he comes and he says, right? He says, what does it help? So he says, and this is what's going to be very, very difficult in the Dinei Mamunot, right? Why? Because at the end of the day, right, what's it going to help? Yeah? Michael Shia, what's the question? Dilma kegon sheuchza ktav yado bevedin. Maybe he already has a ktav yad in the bevedin, right? Which means before he became a gazlan, and therefore they already know that it was done before he was done a gazlan. Why? Because they don't need witnesses to come and testify about the ktav yad. Really, they already knew his ktav yad, meaning they already verified his handwriting 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and it's the same thing. Nothing really changed. And all of a sudden he comes and so they already know, they don't need anybody else now. So therefore, this is already done beforehand. So he comes and he says, Ela yikashia kashia. This is the question really. Which means somebody came and he signed as a friend, right, as an ed on a shtar. And afterwards he became the yoresh of his friend. Right? So now he comes and he says, and now that guy died. And now he is the yoresh. Now, he cannot be mekayim b'ktav yado because he's nogea b'davar. Right? He's nogea b'davar. He's got an interest here. Right? What's the interest? The interest is going to be that Ribono Shel Olam, you went and you signed on a document for your friend, and now you are inheriting that same friend. Now what? You want to come and you want to be mekayim the shtar? You have an interest involved here. So since you have an interest involved here, you can come and start being mekayim the ktav. But other people could do the ktav yado, and that is kasher dinei mamunot. How could it be that he himself kilu is not ne'eman, but on his own signature, and other people are believed on his signature, right? So the Gemara says the same thing. 1 second. But what's the question? He says, Dilma Chanami, maybe also here, maybe his ktav yad is already signed in a bedin. And therefore, if it's already done in a bedin, when he was already kasher, so therefore they're believed to testify that this is ktav yado. We don't need him. We don't need him to come, right, and being testifying on the ktav yado. Okay? You're with me? Yeah? So he says, Elai kashia hakashia. But rather, right, this is what it means to say. Yeah, he comes and he says this. Haya yodea lo be'edut ad shelo na'asa hatano. Imagine he knew testimony during the time when he wasn't married yet to the daughter. Meaning you have a guy that he became the son-in-law. But before becoming his son-in-law, he knew testimony about him. And then what happened? He became the son-in-law. He cannot testify about Ktav Yado, but other people could testify about Ktav Yado. He's not believed, and other people are going to be believed. Now says the Gemara, 1 second. I have a track record. The track record is every single time that we have this question, because the question is always going to be, how could it be that I'm not believed and other people are believed on me? Meaning, I'm not believed that this is my signature. I'm not, but other people are always believed on me, right? But that's what. Now again, you're right. There's a technical issue here because there was a nogea bedut, right? There's a, how do you call it? There's an interest involved. There's things like that. So okay, so says the Gemara, maybe you're going to answer what we kept on answering until now, which is going to be right? Right? Even if it's not going to be Ktav Yado, which was Uksak Medin, we still have the same question. Other people are going to be believed, and this Khatan is not going to be believed. So one more time, before he became the son-in-law, he knew testimony. And he would have been believed if he would have come today and testified. The problem is, now you have a technical issue. He got married to the daughter. And once he got married to the daughter of this guy, now that's it. He's got personal, he cannot testify about the father-in-law anymore. Even though the case happened beforehand, he cannot testify anymore. Because now he's already a family member. He's already married, right, to the daughter. But the testimony is given today. The testimony, he's testifying about something which occurred before. But when is the testimony taking place? Today. Today, you are no B'dava. Right? So therefore, even though you're right that what you're testifying about happened, whatever it is, 5 years ago, and those are, he was not even thinking about it, right? But the second that today is the testimony, today is when the edut is being chal, right? Meaning the edut is going to be chal now, even though about what you're testifying about was before.
So you can say that today is not valid, this testimony, but 5 years was.
Of course.
Then,
so says the Gemara, exactly. So says the Gemara, what's the question? You're right. Svara, logic, doesn't make sense. What's yeah, what's the Gzerat HaKatuv exactly? It says, De'ihu lo mehemen, ve'yacharine mehemne, ve'la mishum de meshaker. He says, he's not going to be believed. Right? And he says, and other people are going to be believed. And what? He's not going to be meshaker. Right? Which means, right, the entire concept that we're talking about is that when somebody is going to be karov, which is going to be pasul edut, it's a katuv. It's not like we're going to come and we're going to start suspecting about certain things. It's a katuv, right? Udilo temahachi, because if you're not going to say it's a katuv, Moshe ve'Aharon. What about Moshe and Aaron? Do you believe anybody more than Moshe and Aaron? Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron HaKohen? Yeah, exactly. He says, "Well, you're going to tell me because of Moshe Aaron and let's say to their son-in-law, right? They're not going to be believed. But rather, it's a Gzerat HaKatuv. That they're not. It's not because of 100% we're going to suspect that it's sheker. Even without sheker, you've got a guy that you know that from the beginning, when he was a little tiny baby, he never lied in his life, and everybody knows about it. Everybody knows this guy is like mamash. Dover emet bilvavo mamash 100%, and he's going to come and he's going to testify. But there's a technical issue. He's testifying about a brother, about a son-in-law, about a father-in-law, about people that it's pasul edut. So here, even if the reason is not going to be because of sheket, because you know that the guy would never say sheket, or even if you know that the guy would, because it's not even worth it for him. We're talking about such a minimal amount, it just doesn't make sense to be mishaker for that. But still, it's a gzerat hakatuv, gzerat melechim. And when it's going to be Gzerat Melechu, Hachanami, so too I'm going to say this thing. Gzerat Melechu, Shlo Yeid Ktav Yado Lechotno, that he's not going to testify about the Ktav Yad. So therefore, we just say it's Gzerat HaKatuv, and that's it. We finish it. It's very easy. Gzerat HaKatuv. So he says, Ela leolam kedamninan meikara, but rather like what we said at the beginning. So when you ask the question, Tachat avotecha yu banecha, hau bevracha ktiv. There it's talking about the bracha, right? Umima tzitam rabbi bracha ktiv. He says, what are you talking about there? There you're going to tell me now that pasuk is only talking about a bracha? That the tzaddikim were going to have banim and benem banim to have a Yerusha. Meaning it's ki'ilu tachat avodecha yumanecha is not teaching you that ki'ilu that the grandchildren are going to come straight to the grandparents to take the Yerusha. Tachat avotecha yubanecha kavana is that Bezrat Hashem, a person will have children and grandchildren when they're going to be inheriting them. That means they should leave off that they're going to have a lot of offspring, not just only children. So says the Gemara, do you think that it's only talking about bracha? Kuf nun teta mubet, 159b. But not to do a din. But now we learned in the Mishnah, Nafal alav habayit ve'al aviv. You remember the previous few Mishnayot we had, that what happens if the house falls and kills the two people? So we had the son and the father. We had the husband and the wife, right? Or the son and the father and the son, or the mother and the son. You know, like all these different cases. So all these, so Nafal habayit alav ve'al aviv. It fell on him and the father. Alav al Melishav, or him on the ones that are inheriting him. Now he had a ketubat isha and balchov against him. That is, he has to give a ketubat to his wife, and he also has a balchov, somebody that he owes money to. So the inheritors of the father are saying Hamben Medrishon, the first the son died, and then afterwards it was the father, and therefore obviously the balchov cannot take anything. And balchov is going to say no, that the father died first, then afterwards the son, so therefore they could collect. My lover, we're not talking about Yersheh Ha'av, right, which is going to be Bene, his own children, and Morishav. Who's Morishav? Ache, the brothers. Because when you're talking about the different people, obviously you're talking about the children and the brothers. So he says, Ve'isal kadaitach, lo matziamar, if you're going to tell me now, you cannot say Mikoach Avu Adaba Katina, Dichtiv, there was when it's written, Tachat Vadecha Yubanecha is only Bibracha. Ki meta ben ve'achar kach meta av, my havi. Even if the son dies and then the father dies, what's it going to help? How are they going to become patur? Neim alu balchov, the balchov should come and say, Yerushat avuhom kashakilna. You guys are taking the Yerusha of your father. Meaning, if you're going to tell me that we don't use this pasuk of tachat avotecha yubanecha, that basically that the grandchildren could yoresh directly to the grandparents, so therefore, what does it help that even if it's going to be that which one died first, they could come and they could say, you're taking it from your father. And therefore, if you're taking it from your father, right, it doesn't matter. You basically, you have to go up. So therefore, who do I care who died first, whether it's the grandfather or the grandson? It has to go through the father. Once it goes through the father, immediately it's going to go to the balchov. The balchov is going to come and he's going to collect it. So says the Gemara, it was a mistake. Lo, Yorshei Av is Zechav. Morishav is Ached Avua. He says like this, Yorshei Av is his brothers. The Yorshim of his father is his brothers, and the Yorshim of the Morishav are his uncles. Yeah, the uncles and then the brothers. Because remember, the brothers always take before the uncles, right? So what happens here is, right, obviously what happens is if a person passes away, it's his children. If he doesn't, first boys. If there's no boys, girls. If there's no girls, it goes to his father. His father comes before the Achim, right? And then the Achim. And then if there's no Achim and there's no father, it goes to Ache Aviv, the uncles. Okay? So therefore here he's saying that we had a mistake in who's Yorshei Av and who's Morishav. We thought that Yorshei Av is the Ben. And the Morishav, right, was the Achim. Now we're changing it. Yorshei Av are his Achim, his own brothers. And the Morishav are his uncles. Right? It's two different pshatim. So now he comes and he says, so he asks from the Sheshat, Ben can a son inherit the mother in the keved in order to take a nachala from in order to give a nachala for the brothers mitzad the abba, right? Meaning one more time, the mother passes away. Now, when the mother passes away, can the son, right? Can he be yoresh et imo b'keved, right? Which means that he was niftar before the mother. So can he now be yoresh? And now the mother dies. So can he yoresh et imo? And he's in the keved. He's 6 feet under. No, but that's the question. The question is, can he 6 feet under take a Yerusha and now pass it along to the brothers mitzad his father? That they have nothing to do with his mother. Because his mother only had him. And now he had other half-brothers from mitzad the father. So can he be yoresh his mother in the kevet? He's in the kevet. He's 6 feet under. Can he be yoresh his mother in order to give it to the brothers? So Amalu Rav Sheshat. One second. Amalu Rav Sheshat says Rav Sheshat. Tinitua, we already learned this. Ha'av shenishba. If the father was taken into captivity, umet beno b'medina, and his son dies in the medina, uben shenishba, or the son was taken into captivity and he died in captivity, umet aviv b'medina, and then the father dies. Yorshei av, Yorshei ben yachloku. They come and they start dividing the properties between the Yorshim of the father and the Yorshim of the son, because we're not sure who actually gets it. So Hechidam, what's the case exactly? If you're going to tell me now, Haininu Yorshei av, Haininu Yorshei ben, who's the Yorshei av, who's the Yorshei ben? So he says, one second, who are those people? But rather means to say like this. Av shenishba umet ben bito b'medina. You have a father that was taken into captivity, and it's ben bito that died in the Medina. right? ובין שנשבע ומת אבי אמו במדינה. ולא ידענה, we don't know who died first, right? We don't know who died first. So Yoshea Av, Yoshea Ben Yachloku. It's the Yoshim of the father and the son are going to be mechalek the nechasim, right? Because again, since we don't know exactly who died first, so therefore everyone's arguing who died first and therefore who gets the properties, right? Which could always happen. So he says, Vim ita, now if you're going to tell me that what, like what we said before, that a person could be Yoreshet imo b'keven. So he says, Nehi nami de ben met v'resha, if you're going to tell me the son died in the Resha, lite lavua diime b'kevrev, lite lachua minavewa. He says, even if you're going to tell me that the son did die before, right, even before the grandfather, still he should be Yoreshet imo, and then he should take it to the properties of the half brothers. But rather we already learned, Ena ben Yoreshet imo b'kevrev, the son does not take the properties. Meaning the son, the second that he died, he does not take any Yerusha from the mother in order to that, because he's already dead, so he cannot come and take it in order to give it to the half brothers. So we also learned this. Now, so we're going to the other case of the Mishnah, if you remember, which is basically that it fell on him and his mother. Everybody agrees, even Bet Shammai Bet Hillel, that you divide the money. If you remember, we said that nobody was muhsak. So he says, Vimita, if you're going to tell me, even if the son would have died first, right? You should have an inheritor in the kevet and then give it to the brothers. And love Shmamina, the same thing. So the same thing, we're bringing it from another proof, from another Mishnah. The exact same yesod. A son does not take in the kever, meaning he's dead. So he cannot come and inherit his mother when he's in the kever to pass it along, right, to the brothers, mitzad the father. The time of my. So why? When Abaye says, Ne'emra siba beven, ve'ne'emra siba bebal. It says heseba v'lo tisov nachala. Heseba here means that it's passing along. Remember that when a woman gets married, she's from Shevet, let's say Dan. When she gets married, there are two possibilities that the properties are going to go somewhere else. How does it go? Either to another Shevet. How does it go? Either to the husband, because if she dies, the husband inherits her, or through her son. That is, that if let's say the husband died first, right, and then she dies, it's going to go to the son, and the son will take it to another Shevet because he's already from another Shevet. So therefore, there are two different types where it says Siba. Masiba amra bebal, just like by the Siba by said by Bal. And a Bal Yoreshet Shloba Kever, he can never inherit his wife if she's dead. So that means he could only inherit her what she had during lifetime, not afterwards. If after she already died, now she gets it, he doesn't take anything. That's it. It's not his wife anymore. The same thing, Siba, which is brought down by the Ben, is only going to be that he only during the lifetime. He cannot take it when he already dies. Story. Somebody comes and he tells his friend, all the karkaot that I purchased from a certain person that his name is Bar Sisim, I'm going to sell it to you. There was a property that was called Bar Sisim. And he told him, this is not karka from him that I bought from. That was just a name. Meaning that it was called a certain name. You know, like how nowadays there's a lot of properties that they're called a certain property, but it's not that I actually bought it from him. It's just that's the name of the property, right? There's a lot of things of that. Yeah? He says, and it was only mechune bar sisim. So they came in from Rav Nachman, and he gave it to the Lokach as if that he bought it. So Amalei Rav Nachman, he told Rav Nachman, Dina achi, is that halacha? Yeah, usually you have to take out, you have to bring a, if you want to take something out, you have to bring the proof. It's the onus is on you. It's incumbent upon you to bring the proof to take something property out. Verami de Rava, and we actually have a contradiction from Rava to Rava and Rav Nachman to Rav Nachman. Somebody said to his friend, "My what are you doing in this house?" Amalei says, I bought it from you. Minach zevinte. V'achalit shnei chazaka, I have a chazaka. Amalei says, "Ana b'shchunei gavai yavai." What are you talking about? I was in the inner rooms. So Atul came in the Rahman. They came in front of Nachman. Amalei he said, "Zilbro achilatcha. Go check your chazaka." Amalei Rav Nachman, Adina is that halacha? Hamotzi mechavariyah. Always he has a chazaka. That's it. So he says, "Kasha derava, kasha Nachman." So he says, "No. Derava lokashia hacha mocher bekam nichse vehatam lokach bekam ze." Who's in the properties? Is it going to be the mocher, which means the mocher is nichse bar sisin? He's the one that's in the properties. Over there, it's the lokach. That's why. Meaning it depends who's in the property. Who's the one that's taking out of who? Is it the seller or the purchaser? Well, it depends. That's why it's a motzim mechavaliyah. So when we came and we said that it was going to be the lokeach, that it's in his hands, it means that he already had the property in his hands. Once he has the property in his hands, it's the other way around. The seller has to bring the proof to take it out of his hands. That Rav Nachman also is not a question. Since he told them the Bar Sisin, and it's called the Bar Sisin, he has to show that it's not Bar Sisin. Right? Hatam over there, even if he has a document, don't we tell him, right? How do you call it? Validate the shtad, and then you're going to get the nechasim. And therefore, obviously, it's going to be a difference. So therefore, there's not going to be a stira between Rav Nachman and Rava ad Rava. Hadran alach mi shemet.